I will now call the Community Safety Committee meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This meeting is being held in person and electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. There's no public meetings for this, but we do have one open delegation that was received, and that is from Mr. Mike Slinger concerning the measurable results year by year of the 2021 to 2024 Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan entitled Our Shared Plan for a Safer Barrie. In accordance with the city's procedural bylaw, maximum of 5 minutes is permitted to speak. I'll now call upon Mr. Slinger to approach the podium to deliver your delegation. Mr. Slinger, you have 5 minutes, and I believe IT provides a timer on the screen.
Thank you. And thanks for this opportunity. This is a little visual just to remind you what I want to talk to. My name's Mike Slinger. My wife and I have lived in Barrie for 20 years. We are in Ward 10. The real purpose for me wanting to stand here in front of you as council and supportive staff is to reinforce the importance of what I call accountability and transparency in municipal governance. Municipal governance. I have a handout I want to distribute right now that will help me focus my comments to you and hopefully will speed me through the 5 minutes I'm allowed. So, pardon my use of this terminology, but I only have 8 copies.
Mr. Slinger, if I might recommend to give it to a staff member and they can do it so you don't lose time, even though it was last minute, but.
Once you cast your eyes on the handout, you're going to be drawn to a white square in the middle of the first sheet, but you'll also see 2 photographs at the bottom. And I want to start with the photographs. Having had a school across from my home, an elementary school, for 17 years, I've continued to press my issue about infractions with bylaws. And facing across the street, the picture you see on your right is the bylaw reference. Picture on your left is a picture taken from my front door, March 23. I'll be brief, but I guess the point I'm trying to make here is there is a bylaw, but there are an awful lot of parents with kids who every morning show up between 8:30 and 9:15 in order to beat the curfew for getting your kids into school. And then again in the afternoon from about 2:30 to 3:15. So I just leave that with you that I think something better needs to be done in that regard because of what I think are unsafe issues that involve the kids, as well as doubling up parking on both sides of the street and making it tough for traffic to get through at the same time. Okay, now let me deal with the white square. I did ask questions of members of your committee before. Well, what did you use as data, bottom line data that helped pull together your 15 actions that you have in your plan? And I wasn't getting much of an answer, so I thought, well, I just learned I can stand at a podium and address the crowd, so I thought I'd reinforce that one. So the very first question is, in 2020, when the committee sat down and pulled together all the data of where safety and well-being in the city needs to be addressed, what data did you get that I would call baseline data, which gives you measurements, gives you something to look at and say, how far have we come from then? Well, here we are in year 4 in your plan. So 3 years have gone by. And I'm asking, and I don't expect to get it now, but I am asking to see and learn more about the baseline data that was used. Now, the second question, it deals with a commitment that was made in the plan that annually there would be a forum hosted by the committee in which presumably you would try to look back on year 1, 2, and 3. That's where you are, and you're in year 4, and surmise how well you've done, and that you would publicize it, make it available to the paying public, the residents and taxpayers of the city of Barrie. So I'm curious to know what exists in the way of the results you feel the committee achieved in your first 3 years. And of course, you're halfway into your 4th year. So I'm going to leave you now with 2 points I want to bring up. One does reference to safety, and the other one references to what I hope I can get, not now, but when it's convenient to deliver to me. And the first one, and I'd like you to kind of keep this in your head, keep the community safety and well-being phrase which you use in your plan. Now, I want you to imagine this scene. You are a resident or a visitor, driving or walking across Dunlop between Toronto and Mulcaster. And whether it's daytime or night, you see stainless steel posts lining both sides of Dunlop. You can't help but want to have an explanation for why there is a possible uneasy feeling as you look at these steel posts along there and consider that there must be something unsafe about this strip in the city, which is a core strip. So I leave with you that description, that picture I just gave you. And next time you're out walking, driving, and you go across, look at it from the way I look at it in terms of what image it creates for those of us who live in this fine city.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Slinger. My
And now,
apologies. Sorry, Mr. Slinger, you're a minute over time, and that's also on me. I looked up and I didn't see the minus sign when we were at 17 seconds. I thought there were 17 seconds left. The good news is any member of council, any member of committee can ask you to answer their questions. So you may have an opportunity to finish the point that you hadn't been done yet if a member of committee asks you a question. But I just wanted to stick to the consistency, and even knowing that I went allowed the timer to go a minute over. Do any members of committee have any questions for Mr. Slinger? Deputy Mayor Thompson, then Councillor Corso.
Thank you, Chair Morales. Just on your last point there, if you could maybe just a little more clear, what were the steel posts you were referring to?
Well, they are we'll call them stainless steel posts that are on both sides of Dunlop as you walk or drive along. And it reminds me a lot of barriers that are put in front of banks and other facilities in a city or a town that are designed to avoid the possibility of somebody losing control of their vehicle or intentionally deciding to drive in because they got a gripe about something. So it's always been my view as I drive through the city that doesn't send the right signal if a safe community is what you're trying to establish. So I have no idea where the idea came from to put those posts up, but I don't think they create a great image.
Are you speaking of the removable bollards that are on the?
If they're removable, sure, but anytime I've driven by, they're always there. So
I don't know if you remember that was part of the streetscape. So the purpose behind that is to utilize wider sidewalks accessible, and it allows the businesses to then put patios. So if you go out, last week we had moved the patio date, and if you go on Dunlop today, there's quite a few patios that have started erecting on the street. So if we did not put those bollards, pedestrians would be walking on live lanes traffic. So by widening the pedestrian access, that was what it was for, to facilitate the expansion of the patio program, which has been very successful. So, and like that's why, so it makes you feel unsafe by having that? Is that? It
creates what I think is a sense of unsafeness, if there is such a word.
So would you prefer that no bollards be there?
I would welcome anybody reflecting on, do you see the image I see? And if I'm in the minority, then okay, you're going to go with it because it's worked for you. I just think it creates an odd impression. And that's why I referenced to, I've got a Shoppers Drug Mart very close to me where we live. And right across the front, there are 8 posts. These are concrete wrapped in plastic. And I hadn't seen it in front of any other Shoppers Drug Mart, but I got to believe somebody thought, this is a smart move to avoid damage to the property, injury to people, whatever it is. So that image, I transfer it over to the image of these stainless steel posts that I see on either side of the dump. So, hey, that's me, that's an impression. Whether anyone else gets it, that's fine. In fact, that issue is secondary to the primary one, which are the two questions I'm asking in the white square on the cover page that I handed out to you. That's where I'd like some feedback and specifics, documents, records, statistics.
And you said there was two images and you had run out of time, but I would be very curious to hear your second one. So the first one was about the bullards on Dunlop Street.
Right.
And then you said you had a second one, but we were unable to hear just because of the time. So I'll give you that opportunity if that's okay to
It'll be
hear.
brief, but thank you. The way I wrote it, do I have your committee's commitment to provide me with answers to my two questions? That's all.
So the two questions in the white square
Yep.
are the two identified things that you just mentioned. So one, you're looking for data, and the second or the first one was about the bullards.
Let's focus on the square.
Okay, so
Those two questions, they're key to me in terms of accountability and transparency.
So I'll speak for myself, but I think this term of council has been very open and transparent. And we've actually had a more strategic planning, and Councillor Hamilton brought in a thing with KPIs, which will give a baseline data to move forward with, and which will be published. So from where I'm sitting, I would say yes to both your questions. I don't think that'll be a challenge whatsoever. So thank
Great.
you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Before we move on, I'm just quickly going to jump on for the purposes of having continuity in the discussion. Ms. McAlpine, it's my understanding that there was some changes to provincial legislation as it relates to some of the components of the community safety and well-being plan. Would you be able to, as appropriate, elaborate on any of those details and how they may affect the questions in the white box?
Thank you, Chair Morales. As members of committee may be aware, the requirement from the province for municipalities to establish community safety and well-being plans was established in mid-2020. It was extended during COVID. The province also included information in the regulation that with the potential for them to regulate reporting, evaluation, and outcome information. The province has never established the reporting or outcome information and still hasn't to date. As of April 1st of this year, the community safety and well-being plan requirements have been altered slightly under the new Policing Act that came into force and effect on April 1. Most of the requirements of community safety and well-being plans remain the same. However, they have, again, the province has yet to establish any requirements related to reporting, monitoring, or evaluating plans. That does not mean that the action partners have not been, they have been meeting to discuss reporting on the plan. However, we don't have anything from the province on what their expectations are or how they would like that to be formatted. So the action partners, there's 15 of them with respect to the plan, and we've had meetings which in our case are referred to as annual forums of the members to discuss the plan, progress on plan, and reporting on those results. The committee, the group, the action partner representatives have initially came up with a number of outcomes or key performance indicators. And the plan members changed. We had about 7 of the 15 representatives change out of the action partners. And some of the KPIs or statistics that the group were looking to report on have been more challenging than the group anticipated on achieving statistics, but we do have a fair number of reporting points, and we are working right now on a report that's public worthy versus the rough information that has been received from the partners.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. McAlpine. And I don't want to go on a back and forth with staff and a member of the public. However, I will acknowledge Mr. Slinger's been patient in his deputation for this meeting. There's some rescheduling conflicts. So I'll do a follow-up question to yourself and then leave it there in this point. If Mr. Slinger or any other member of the public hearing the answer you just gave does want a little bit more clarity, knowing that there's been change in the staffing, knowing that we're waiting for the province to be a little bit more prescriptive with what they want, what general advice to Mr. Slinger or anyone who might be interested in a similar information would you recommend for them to do? To wait for clarity from the province, to wait for a reporting from the city? I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Chair Morales. As you may recall, a community survey was sent out about the community's sense of safety and well-being that occurred at the end of 2022, and we published a memo with respect to the results of that community survey. The information from the action partners regarding the status of the actions, as you may be recalling, the action items are led by various community partners. They're not all led by the city. So those partners have been preparing details of their status, and we expect to have something published before the July recess.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Ms. McAlpine. Councilor Corser.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to our Mr. Slinger. Just a couple of points, as many around the table and in the room can testify. I also live across from a school, and I see the same challenges that you see every morning, and I have grave concerns about children crossing streets, and I have been bringing this up since I've sat in the chair. We invited the school boards to come to the Community Safety Committee, this committee, to discuss school safety and different issues surrounding that. And I guess that was, if the clerk could help me on that. How long ago was that, Ms. Cook? January?
It was January or February. I can't recall the exact date, but it was earlier this year.
Okay, and we invited them to come back because we were really looking at doing active transportation, encouraging different safety things so that we can mitigate some of the issues that are going on in school zones, because as mentioned, we can't bylaw our way out of this because it's just too overwhelming in different areas. In my school, every school seems to have this problem. So we're looking for our community partners to work with us to alleviate some of these things. Also, we have, and again, I'm not sure if you're aware that for street safety, driving safety and different issues, we have invited Barrie Police Services to the Community Safety Committee, and they accepted our invitation. And I believe that they're coming to speak with us on May 8th, Ms. Cook, is that correct?
Through you, Chair Morales, to Councillor Kungle. We were an attempt to get the traffic team and the Barrie Police Service to attend the same meeting as per the direction of the committee. That May date does not work, so we are still working on scheduling a meeting when both teams can attend.
Oh, I apologize. I probably shouldn't be announcing dates if I don't have concrete, if they're, if the members of our community partners are not confirmed for those dates. I shouldn't be spouting dates like that. I apologize. They're coming soon. Anyway, in the coming weeks to talk to us about the different issues that are happening in the city. So I just wanted to assure you that that is, you're welcome to come to those meetings to watch or play out the conversations. And also it'll be on YouTube as well. So we would like to have the same kind of answers that you were looking for as well. And we're looking forward to talking to our community partners about that as well, if that helps at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Corser. Mr. Slinger, would you care to respond with any comments at all? I'm being very flexible with this usually, and even with myself and other members of the committee, usually it's very much questions to the deputant. But no, not your fault, Councilor Corser. I think that's actually really helpful. I think, Mr. Slinger, you've been really well engaged, and if somebody asked me, would you rather 3 months of emailing Mr. Slinger back and forth or a little bit of extra time? I'll take it. I'll take it this way. So it's more productive for all of us and more productive for Mr. Slinger. So Mr. Slinger, I don't think there were specific questions in there other than did you know these things were possibly coming and did you know this one meeting occurred? But if you wanted to provide any comments to what was said by Councillor Corser, you can do so now if you choose.
That's a lot to take in. You're an amazing crowd as I listen to you and watch you perform. By the way, the perform is not a slight by any way, but you've really picked up the way to handle things. I'm kind of a straight up guy and I go shooting for it. So I have two things. I would have a bylaw enforcement officer cruise up and down all the parked cars and not give out warnings, but give out tickets. But I also take that and I rotate it around every elementary school in the whole city. And you would never know as a parent, as you're over there trying to play games with can I park and can I not park? Because you never know where you're gonna get hit, and make the fine substantial. I understand the school board issues and all of that, and then who's got jurisdiction and who acts. But the fact is, there is a bylaw. It exists. And people know it's there and they ignore it. That's one thing. One other illustration to the whole issue I've been working on. I have been after council for similar information that I'm asking here for the Safety and Wellbeing Committee. What is the data that was the source for creating the 4-year strategic plan, which the council is working on, and it ends in 26? I cannot get an answer. But what I did hear just late in the year, and then I finally saw it, somebody said, we're putting out a dashboard. We're going to have a dashboard out so the public can pull it up off an internet connection and see the results that we're pulling on. And that got my hackles going because I'm saying, compared to what? Somebody boasts about a percentage that shifted and thinks that meant something was accomplished. Baseline data, so critical. If you don't know where you're working from, how do you know how well you've improved? So I applied that approach that I was taking with council to this one with your committee. The same thing was evident to me. There's very minimal information available on the baseline data that you build on and then measure your success as you tackle it through actions or action plans. That's all. Case closed. How I ever get an answer to the two questions in the famous white square, I have no idea. But I thank you for your time. I let you get on with more important work.
Thank you for those comments, Mr. Slinger. Like I said, I'm being very flexible here. I think it saves everybody time to have a human conversation. Thank you, Mr. Slinger. We'll quickly follow up with your questions. Again, I've told you before, we'll get you answers as we can. I'm going to go to Ms. Rebecca James Reed quickly if she wants to add color to the dashboard. And then Mayor Thompson, you signaled that you also wanted to follow up, Ms. James Reed, and then Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you for the question. It's my understanding that that matter is on the next finance committee. It was referred by council. So I think that the KPIs on the strategic priorities, I think, is scheduled for next Tuesday at finance.
Okay, so perfect. Mr. Slinger, I know you're wrapping up your papers and I'll make sure that you can hear me. So the answer we got from staff was in reference to the dashboard. Next Tuesday at the finance committee will be information about the dashboard. So next Tuesday at the finance committee will be follow up on the dashboard. The nice thing about these meetings, as I've said to you before, is they're also recorded. So if you aren't able to write down now, you can pull it up on your computer and check over these answers and get clarity there. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Chair Morales. So just to your two questions. So how we come up with our strategic priority, there's 11 people elected every 4 years. And it's the skill sets and what people said at the door, what they hear at the door, that we sit in a room, we have a facilitator, and we basically stay all day and come up with a collective group of what we believe to be the strategic priorities moving the city forward. And then from there, that's kind of how it starts. And then so every 4 years, you're going to start at a new baseline as you, I know how engaged you are. So the direction of maybe last term to this term is very different. So we start with a new baseline. So unfortunately, it's not where it's an ongoing thing where you have data for 20 years because the direction of the corporation will change, you know. If you look at it, we're board of directors. We elected a new CEO and 10 members of a board with beliefs and what we feel the city direction should be. And being elected is normally because the people at the door who elect us liked what we were saying and believed in our direction. So that's how it gets to our strategic priorities. So we've set them out. And then from that point on, we'll start with the dashboard on what we set out. And, you know, a good board will realize if we're working well and hitting our targets, or, you know, we'll start turning the ship if we need to achieve that. So just to give you some clarity of how that comes about.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. I'll go to Councillor Hamilton now.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morales, and nice to see you, Mr. Slinger. Thank you for coming today, and
Great to see you.
in Board 10, we've had many a conversation, so I actually really appreciated you coming and the questions that you asked today. I have a very similar stance as you do, as you know, in terms of oversight and effective management. I have one question because I'm supposed to ask a question, and I just want to, how long have you been asking the city for a report back on the shared plan for Safer Barrie?
How long have I been at? 2 months, maybe 3 months.
Okay, so I mean, I would say, and this may not be received well around the table. I agree. I would be frustrated if I was a resident and I see a plan develop that the city's owning and has a plan for Safer Barrie. There's 15 goals in here that we want to accomplish from 2021 to 2024. It's 2024. And there's no follow-up. So I get it. And no resident wants to hear, well, legislation changed and, you know, the province didn't ask us for any follow-up outcome measures. I understand where you're coming from. This is our plan. We owned it. It was our responsibility then to come up with follow-up. Year 1, how did we do? Year 2, how did we do? Year 3. I think it's complicated, not that you want to hear this, that you have a new council come on board halfway through a plan. So it does complicate things. I agree with everything that Deputy Mayor Thompson said in terms of, you know, a new board, a new strategic plan. But I agree. I think a ball's been dropped here. And I think we have to look at this going forward to say, how do we not do this again, right? My term's going to end in 2 years, whatever plans we develop. How do we make sure they don't fall off the wagon and we start net new every 4 years? Because that is really not helpful to anyone at all. I do think we've done a great job with our new strategic plan that you just heard about. We've got reports coming back next week. Absolutely agree with you. Numbers are meaningless unless we have baseline data and targets. So that's something we are working on as well. So I just appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you asking the questions, although sometimes I get your emails and I cringe a little because I'm worried what you're going to ask. These are the questions we need to be asking, and this is how you need to be holding us accountable. So I hope to do a better job going forward. That's my commitment to you as your ward councillor. And I hope people agree around the table that I think we have some work to do to improve our transparency, improve our accountability, and improve our ongoing consistency in terms of our oversight.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. I'm going to follow up a question before we go to the mayor because he signaled he wanted to speak. Mr. Slinger, yeah, I don't think it should have taken 2-3 months to get data. But here's the thing, and I'll let you speak. You signaled, and I am talking about you. A lot of it has to do with getting your question to the right location. I don't necessarily mean the right person. At the end of the day, from your perspective, I can understand that if a member of the public has a question, to them, the buck starts and stops with council, with their local council, with the mayor, with the person of the committee, et cetera. I totally get that. Sometimes, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but just for clarity to people who might not be maybe in the loop around the table right now watching, sometimes you would ask questions of staff that were more like counselor questions. Sometimes you would ask a counselor question about how a meeting was going to be rescheduled or administered. There were times where you emailed me and I was in the loop, and there were times where you didn't email me, and then I got the thread later that I would go back and say, oh, now I'm seeing that, now that it's been escalated to a point of confusion or frustration and it was missing information. So what I'm getting at is, how can we learn, whether it be your situation or anyone else, how can we assure that when someone's looking for information at this level, we're not looking for a pothole to be filled, or we're not clarifying how we can pay a bill. When we're looking for very specific information, that you don't get caught in lost in translation and loss in time inefficiency for getting answers for your questions. And here's the thing, I'm gonna actually ask a question because I don't know what the answer is. I right now could make assumptions, which I'm not, but I'm going to give examples. I could make an example that says these kind of questions should always be going through Access Barrie. I could also make an assumption that says these questions should be going through the clerk and legislative services office because there is a legislative component and that's the top-down starting point and they delegate as appropriate. I could also make the argument that all these points should be going through the mayor's office because there is a bit of mayor and council directive. I could also make the point that this kind of question should go through the CAO's office or the general manager of community and corporate services, because a lot of this implementation and knowledge of where the legislation and timing is with Ms. McAlpine. Here's the thing, those are my assumptions. I don't know. And if I don't know, how do I expect you to know which of those points of contact to contact? So I am going to maybe ask the CAO and let him defer to whatever staffer he would like as appropriate, because I don't even know if my question is appropriate because this is a very complex thing. But in the spirit of finding centralizing the point of contact of Mr. Slinger or any other member of the public who has similar questions of this nature. Mr. Prowse?
Chair Morales, for members of the public, there are two easy conduits to request information. Service Barrie obviously is the front line for staff and they will find the appropriate department to get that information. We have 11 elected officials who represent the public. The ward councillor would be the other conduit I would recommend. There's no need for a member of the public to be an expert on our organization, nor where to go for information. So I would encourage them to start with Service Barrie or their elected ward councillor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Prowse. Mayor Nuttall.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Slinger, sorry I wasn't here for your presentation, but I'm catching up through the question and answer process here. My question is actually for staff. When it comes to the community safety and well-being plan, my understanding was that we were in charge of some of it. Other organizations were in charge of some of it, but a large part of it was actually to do with Barrie Police. Is that correct? Am I connecting the dots correctly?
Through Chair Morales to Mayor Nuttall. So you are correct. The Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan was developed as required by the legislation through consultation with the community, which included surveys of the community, and then as specifically required in the legislation, meetings with various organizations representing certain groups within the community or entities within the community. Out of the information that was gathered, there were focus areas or risk areas identified by the committee. And Barrie Police Service was fortunate enough to receive a grant from a consultant that allowed for them to provide some assistance in developing the specific plan based on the survey results and the focus group results, and working with those action partners. Barrie Police, because of the grant, were able to derive some of that, but there are 15 action partners who committed to either leading or supporting the 15 action items. They're not all supporting one. There may be one supporting one action item and a couple supporting a different one. So there are a variety of organizations that are responsible. I would note that parking in front of schools is not something that's identified in the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. However, we do have enforcement officers who do rotate and ticket in school areas, but they're rotating amongst, I think, 44 schools. So they may not be seen as frequently as people might desire. But in terms of the action items, they are led by different organizations. Barrie Police is leading a number of the action items. The city has a few of them. And then Canadian Mental Health Association, the Barrie Public Library, the Women and Children Center, they're leading other ones as examples. So there's a large number of groups that are leading different action items in the plan.
Hello, Mr. Chair. With regards to the community safety and wellbeing plan, there was a presentation that was brought by former Chief Greenwood to this committee I'm guessing a year ago, maybe it was a little longer than a year ago at this point, with A, explaining it, B, I would guess providing a bit of an update and a request for support also at the same time. My ask is, I know we can send this to Mr. Slinger, because I think that if he hasn't seen that I think provided an update at that point as to where it was going with regards to responsibilities from the police department, and the requests from the police department. And I think that will give you some baseline from one of the organizations involved as to at least what they were trying to achieve, not necessarily the raw data on whether they're achieving their goals, but at least on what they're trying to achieve, what is their vision, et cetera. The other thing I just wanted to comment on from the police side, or maybe comment is the wrong thing to say, but it's my understanding, and if it's okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask this another committee member, because he's been more involved in this than I have. It's my understanding that the police service is seeking to put data through mapping ward by ward online, which would help be able to get month by month and community ward by ward, I think was how they described it, data on what types of crimes are taking place, et cetera. Is that, I don't, as of 2 weeks ago, it wasn't up online. If it is online at this point, then maybe, but Mr. Chair, through you to the other police board member.
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Sorry, I'll let you speak. It was my understanding that was active years ago, but maybe if it got taken offline and revamped, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so there is something that you speak of that is there already, but it's going to be a lot more focused, or I guess refined. So it's where right now it's more of a heat map where it's by color, where it doesn't identify the crimes or the high index crimes, how they are. But in a couple of weeks, it's going to be a lot more interactive or refined, I guess, data. Right now, it's just like kind of looking at it from 30,000 feet.
Excuse me, I've got to go home for dinner. Let you folks carry on. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for
Mr. Slinger, I think the point is that that's a place you can get some of that data from.
Thank you for the blunt honesty as always, Mr. Slinger. Mayor Nuttall, would you like, I think that kind of just ends it, right?
No, I think there was a request for raw data and
Yes.
baseline data.
And you
Some
gave,
of it's out there.
and you gave the
And so we
sources.
just need to make sure it's
Perfect.
followed up on.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Slinger, as you put on your coat, I just want to say something. The great thing about this meeting, it's that this meeting is recorded. This meeting is accessible on the YouTube, City of Barrie YouTube website. There's only one. I'm sure there's many imitators. And you can play it fast. You can make it at 1.25 speed. You can replay it. No, I know. So all these answers to the links and the sources that we recommended, all your information's in there. So thank you for your time, Mr. Slinger. And thank you, committee, for entertaining my flexibility with this. Again, this is just much more effective for everybody. Councillor Hamilton, go ahead.
Thank you. And through you, sorry, I don't want to extend the conversation now that now he's left the building, but I actually still am a little unclear, and I don't know if we've answered his questions in the white boxes very well. I understand there's data out there. I find it very challenging that we're leaving it up to residents to have to piecemeal together data, right, to actually look at how this plan is working or implemented or being effective. So I appreciate the fact that, you know, there is data out there. I don't think that's a good enough answer personally. I do just wonder to staff, is there or was there ever an intent to come back and actually report on the 15 action items listed in a more cohesive, is that what you're talking about in July that's going to be released? So it'll be a more cohesive, pulling it all together. This is how we did on each of these 15 items. Is that what we should expect?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Morales, through you to Councillor Hamilton. Yes, we have, as the action partners, developed progress reporting on each of the 15 action items, and that's just being pulled together in a more aesthetically pleasing manner to report back on those.
Excellent. Thank you. That's clear because I feel like I might get some follow-up emails from Mr. Slinger, and I want to make sure that I'm clear to know that July is when he can expect a report back on these 15 items specifically. That is clear according to his question in the white box. So thank you.
Okay, Mayor Manello, I saw your hand quickly before I go to that. I'm going to ask Mr. Prouse again, and I'm going to preface it with as appropriate, this whole conversation. I've kind of put the rules a little bit in the gray area for this. So Mr. Slinger's not under my ward, but I have a resident who is as passionate as Mr. Slinger about parking. Not so much KPI stuff, but parking. When those questions, so that member, of that ward and resident, and I'm keeping it generic, doesn't matter who it is, also has sometimes reached out to other members of council, which they're allowed to, saying like, I don't like the fact that Councilor Morales isn't bringing like a paid parking thing on cul-de-sacs and residential roads. My point being, if a member of the public can't be expected to know about everything, the point of contact being Service Ontario for quick, Service Barrie for quick questions, the counselor for more, for the next level on that. Counselors can still rely, if they don't have the expertise, can we still rely on, obviously referring it to yourself, to Ms. McAlpine, to the appropriate GM, and then go talk, and then let them defer top down from there for very in-depth issues like this? Because I think, and I'm kind of expanding on Councillor Hamilton's questions, we can't expect our residents to be an expert in everything. And if they still don't have a clear, satisfactory answer, want where to get information, we as their local councillor, and I have a situation like this for the parking, we can always follow up with the appropriate general manager or yourself. Is that a correct interpretation?
Chair Morales, absolutely. Members of council are free to escalate as they see fit. It probably wouldn't surprise members of the committee to know that I have emails from Mr. Slinger going back 20 years. He is a frequent contributor to the city, and we appreciate his input. And we take his questions and his inquiries quite seriously. I did search my emails. I don't have anything from Mr. Slinger related to the community and safety wellbeing plan, certainly in the last couple of months. He has inquired around KPIs in general, as council is well aware, for many, many years. That's an ongoing concern of his, but I did not see any emails related to the community safety wellbeing plan.
Mr. Prez, and he's going to watch this later, so I want to say this. Thank you for that answer. And there lies my point. No surprise that he has asked many people for KPIs. Thank you for even being another example of, I've been in situations where I got brought into a thread that had already started. And by the time it got to me, the tone was, I'm frustrated. And then I go back to the timeline. I'm like, this is 5 weeks of frustration of him going to different people, almost like asking someone a different question. And it's not, I'm not blaming Mr. Slinger. What I'm saying is, if Mr. Slinger, and he can make a choice to follow the advice or that's been given or not, that's up to him. But if somebody can have a centralized point of contact, it saves the frustration on the resident. It saves the frustration on the counselors or staffers who may have partial, a piece of the question and a piece of the concern, but not the whole pie. And also, when you get CC'd in an email and the question may not be directly asked directly to you, or may kind of be directly asked to you, but it's not your expertise, everybody goes, well, that other person's going to respond to it. So I really appreciate the clarity on that, because that's another example of, you didn't get questions about the community safety plan from Mr. Slinger, whereas some of us did, but only partial. So I really hope that he reviews this video, and any other member of the public. I also agree. I appreciate his tough questions on KPIs and his passion for the city. It's very strong passion and lots of time commitment. But I think one thing we can even address now is efficiency. So if he's asking the questions to the right people, and we're able to get answers, whether he likes them or not, but he's able to get information at least. So thank you for that. And Mayor Nuttall, you had put up your hand.
Yeah, thanks. Councillor, just a response to Councillor Hamilton, I think that Ms. McAlpine earlier actually responded saying this was coming. In the interim, the police department has data, and there has been an update in the past. His question was, what baseline data points are in place from the committee's assessments in 2020 to measure the progress between 21 and 23? I think that we have had some of that information. We haven't had 2023 information, because I believe that the actual update from the police department was either in December 22 or January 23. And so the point of being asked about the actual data points, what are in place, what information is available, and we're now going to email him directly that response to say, here's some of the data that we have as an interim until we get the fulsome report from Ms. McAlpine. I don't think is asking the public to go look for it. I think it's actually asking our staff to send it directly to Mr. Slinger. In regards to the records existing, Ms. McAlpine, can you add that into your report for not your report, but the report coming forward to show the individual years versus just an update as to where we're at, because I think that there is some specific he's looking for some specific pieces in terms of show the progress on over a certain timeline to see where we've come from, how we've got here, and what's been accomplished.
Chair Morales, through you to Mayor Nuttall, I certainly can do that where the action partners have provided that information on an annual basis. That isn't the case for all of the action items.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Any other members of the committee? Members of non-committee? Okay, so we are past open delegations. There's no presentations by staff or officers or agents of the corporation, and there's no standing items of committee updates, but we do have a referred item. This is a referred item on tonight's agenda that was referred by General Committee on March 20th, 2024, which is motion 24-G-063, referred by General Committee dated on March 20th, 2024, correspondence from the circulation list dated March 20th, 2024, from the town of Aurora concerning the usage of school board facilities available to local municipalities. Can I have a member of committee place the correspondence on the floor to be received? Councilor Corser? So it is now on the floor to be received. Are there any questions from members of the committee on this? Go ahead, Councilor Corser.
Through you, Chair Morales, I think I might be directing this to staff, but probably to our mayor. I understand that there was a letter sent out recently to the Minister of Education, and I was just wondering, maybe the clerk's office would be best. Just wondering if there had been, it wasn't too long ago it was sent out with appreciation. I think it was a week ago. And I'm just wondering if there is anything that heard back from that. I'm not hopeful that we'd hear anything that quickly.
So just for clarification, is this with this regard to the item that's on the floor?
Yes, it is.
And this is the letter for open gymnasiums access to.
Yes.
No, I haven't got anything back from the province. We did, however, meet with the school boards yesterday morning. So we are continuing to move forward with the school boards. Ms. Calpine and her team of looking to expand that. As I understand, it was a very successful sign up in the places that it's been instituted. And there are more schools being looked at, one specifically in Southeast Barrie, either wards 9 or 10 or both. And Ms. McAlpine, maybe you could give the data back up to that conversation that we had.
Thank you. Through Chair Morales to Mayor Nuttall and Councillor Corser. In terms of the reciprocal use agreements, our Recreation and Culture Department have been running programming at Codrington Public School and Steele Street Public School since September. With basketball and indoor soccer programs. We had 95% registration fill rates, some of that within hours of opening registration. Staff also developed a library after dark program at Hillcrest as a test item. It's there was very little uptake. We actually changed the program a couple of times with little change in attendance. Really what we're hearing from customers is they prefer gym-based programs. We've worked with the schools to identify when their gyms are available. Some of the areas that we had expressed an interest in holding programming earlier back in June with the school board, they already had bookings in their gyms that wouldn't have allowed for that. We have been working with the Simcoe Muskoka District Catholic District School Board as well to add schools, and we recently were able to finally recruit some part-time staff that will help us with delivering programming. They're currently looking at 2 schools in one in the Northwest and one in the Southeast right now for the Catholic School Board to and again, that's through a reciprocal agreement. And then we continue to look for other opportunities. The gymnasiums are well booked by the schools generally themselves, so finding a space within them can sometimes be challenging.
You had the floor. Sorry, I was just trying to follow back. Yes, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Morales, I guess I'll address this to Ms. McAlpine. How are these programs promoted? Because the Library After Dark one, I'm very familiar with Hillcrest Public School, but I did not know this program was happening. Who's kind of running with, grab the ball and running with promoting these programs?
Through Chair Morales to Councillor Corser, they're promoted through our recreation and drop-in programming, and through this, and we offer promotions through the schools. So some of it depends on how far it filters, but it's also available on the city's website for drop-in programming. We have, there's limited number of spaces, so and we have a lot of programming on offer at the same time, so.
Okay, just to follow, just a comment, I suppose, yeah, because that really caught me off guard about the Library After Dark, and if there wasn't very much uptake on it, I'm wondering if, not that there isn't the interest there, but maybe like you said, it's not filtering down to the right people to get the information to know that it's actually happening. So I guess a conversation for another time. I'll have to think about that. But yeah, that's an interesting point that there wasn't much uptake, but I wasn't aware it was happening. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Corser. Any other questions? Members of committee? Non-members of committee? Councillor Rima.
Thank you, Chair Morales. And this is a question to Ms. McAlpine, I think. And I'm really pleased to see that, we're getting some uptake in terms of the shared facilities. I think it'll take some time before we, really this program matures. I wanted to ask you if in your meetings there had been anything done about the busing proposal that we had put forward and was going to be considered by the school board.
Chair Morales, through you to Councillor Riepma, the discussions that Recreation and Culture and I have had with the school board have been specific to offering programming at the schools. Other staff have been dealing with active transportation and busing matters, and perhaps Ms. James Reed or Mr. Forsyth would be able to give an update on that.
Thank you for the inquiry. Ironically, I was contacted this morning from the superintendent at the school board, and we have a meeting set up for next week. She said she'd like to further discussion about busing, so I'm hopeful about that.
Thank you, Councillor Riepma. Any other questions or comments from members of non-committee? None? Okay. I think this did its job. Another township sent us a document about how they were trying to work with their local school boards and just send it up the food chain. They didn't ask for a resolution. I think they just kind of said, hey, we're doing this. And maybe if it inspires discussion, and I think not only is it inspiring discussion, but it's inspiring meetings and action. So this was, I think, for 10 minutes, this was definitely worthwhile on putting on the radar and getting some updates as to what we're doing. So all those in favor of receiving this, please indicate. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Reports of advisory committee reports, section 6. There is one advisory committee report to be received. That's report of senior and advisory and accessibility advisory committee dated March 18th. Can I have a member of committee place a report on floor to be received? Deputy Mayor Thompson, are there any questions for members of committee? Non-members of committee? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate. That is received. And there were 2 recommendations from the Senior and Accessibility Advisory Committee dated 18th. The first recommendation is concerning investigation for additional free transit options for seniors. And the second was an investigation for discounts or free transit options for specialized transit services. So I really thought about this one. They're related discussions, and we've had this in the past. We're related discussions that are technically independent. I'm going to make the ruling here that we're going to talk about these holistically, and that way the discussion can happen in a constructive manner, but we will be voting on them separately and in order. So for now, we're just going to put the first one on the floor, but you are able to talk about the second one. I will not rule you out of order, just to clarify. So first one is additional free transit options for seniors. and that staff in the Transit and Parking Strategy Department investigate the feasibility of offering additional free transit options for seniors and report back to the Seniors and Accessibility Advisory Committee. As a member of the committee, wish to place the motion on the floor just to discuss. Mayor Nettle, it's placed on the floor, and again, we can talk about this holistically. Go ahead, Mayor Nettle.
Yeah, thank you. I'd actually like to refer these to the Transit Department. And I'd like the Transit Department to come back with what the estimated costs are associated with completely free service for seniors. And if I could speak to both of them, I think you just said I could, yeah. And the second one, you know, I also want to hear back. Now it's more broad in the sense the discounts and or free service. But I'd like that one to be report back from Ms. James Street as well. And you know, the rationale is we actually do already subsidize and discount that service immensely. My mom's used that service. There's days that I probably could have used that service and haven't. And there already is an immense subsidization of it. I'd like to understand what that is before we, like, what is the baseline for subsidization before we talk about further discounts?
Perfect. Just before going to staff, Mayor Nuttall, based on the comments you said, like, I'd like to see this, or I'd like to refer this to staff. So it was directive language. Do you see there being a benefit in you essentially amalgamating all this so they come back with one comprehensive report instead of two reports that
I'll
obviously
accept you're friendly.
There we go. Okay. So one comprehensive, and Ms. James Reed, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to flag for the committee so that there's full awareness. We can certainly do that, but I don't know what the timeline would be to report back. And that's because Brent and I are sitting on a panel that's being led by the Ministry of Transportation, and it's with respect to a fare integration project. And there's specific outcomes that they're targeting that are referenced specifically to both these two motions. So one of them is trying to align seniors, children, and low-income riders so that across the whole greater Toronto area and Hamilton, that there's the same discount. And similarly, a seamless, simple transit system for the specialized transit. So I would be, I think I would be remiss if we report back to council without this work being completed that we've committed to doing with the Greater Toronto or with the MTO. So I just want to flag that we certainly can do this, but if you see a longer delay, that is the reason for the delay.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could add in the language following the completion of the, is it provincial or?
Yes, the provincial fare integration project. That'd be wonderful.
Following the completion of the provincial fare integration project.
Okay, that seems straightforward. I don't have stuff following up for clarity, so that's understood. Okay, so the items are to be referred. Referrals are non-debatable. So it's great that we had a lot of clarity on this. I'm trying to find a balance here. Okay. And so we're voting on this one. So we are just going to, so if this deferral based on the modified language passes, I'm going to consider the second one moot. And I can't move motions together at the same time, so because they're technically different. So Ms. Cook, is what I just said out loud seem reasonable since the motion, since the refer motion on the first one, which technically was the only one we placed on the floor, encompasses both, would that negate then the need to even receive the second one? Or would you recommend at the very least receiving the second one, but it's implied that the action took on the first one supersedes that?
That's a real tongue twister. What I would suggest doing is just, you could just add the investigation or the referral back to the referral motion on the first one back to staff about the discounts for the free transit options for specialized transit rider and make it one large referral. But then with the second motion, you could just say that it be received and no further action be taken. And then you just have that one motion going forward.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And for anybody who has concerns that there's no action being taken on specialized transit services, that wouldn't be the case because it's already taken into the language that the mayor proposed. Okay, so we will go with that approach. So Any members of the committee have any questions or comments on the mayor's language? Oh, so wait a second. Nope, I can't do that. Questions of clarity? Okay. Questions of clarity to Councillor Corser.
Thank you, Chair Morales. I guess this question goes to Rebecca, Ms. James Reed. Just for clarification, this, is this?
Sorry, Councillor Corser. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's on me. There's no questions. I just got clarified by the clerk that there's also no questions on referred motions.
It was, okay. It was a point of clarity. It wasn't to debate the issue, but.
If it's, sorry,
I'll
if it's a
ask-
point,
I'll
sorry.
take it offline.
No, no.
I'll
If it's a
ask
point
that
of
later.
sorry, if it's a point of clarity on the referral, it can be asked, but it's not to engage in more debate.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Councillor Corser.
It was just in, I was just in reference of the, you know what, I can take this offline because it really isn't pointed, it isn't pointed to the conversation. It doesn't add to the conversation right now at all. It was just in interest of what the province was doing. So it's not part of this conversation. I'll
Okay.
take it offline.
Perfect. And thank you for your patience on this, Councillor Corser. I've never had like a 3D chess situation where they're related, but they're different. And then the addition of language to a referral, which means it's non-debatable, encompasses the second one, but they're voted on separately. This is actually a very unique situation. So I do appreciate the patience of the members of the committee on this. So this referral motion is non-debatable. And I will now take the vote on the referral as per the mayor's language. All those in favor, please indicate. That passes unanimously. Thank you. And this is on just a procedural technicality, but the second recommendation is concerning investigation discounts or free transit options for specialized transit riders. That staff in the Transit and Parking Strategy Department investigate the feasibility of discounts or free transit options for specialized transit riders and report back to the Seniors and Accessibility Advisory Committee. I would say, can somebody put it on the floor? But actually, I'm going to ask Mayor Nuttall to keep it put on the floor for consistency for the minutes. So
Sorry, Mr. Chair, this to be received.
that's to be received and no action be
That's on the
taken.
floor for sure.
But that's superseded by the fact by your previous referral. So, okay, so staff will note that the mayor put it there. And again, this is just to receive it. No action be taken. It's not to imply that no action is being taken, but it's already superseded by the previous referral. All those in favor of receiving? Thank you. That passes unanimously. That was fun. There's no reports of or officers of the corporations or items for discussion, so we will adjourn at 6:04 p.m. Thank you, everybody.